Amazing.
Thank you everyone for holding tight. We have just on roll call, we were going into the receiving hybrid meeting and public comment guidelines. So Leah, whenever you get the opportunity.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. The primary format for accessing and participating in this meeting is in person at the library tonight. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting clearly cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. General public comment will be accepted at the end of the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment, please approach the podium or stand to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak. Once your name is called, you will be unmuted and you may turn on your camera to provide your comments. The city reserves the right to turn videos off or mute participants. Please state your name before speaking. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, we will go to the next item, which would be to approve minutes. I'll ask for a motion from all to approve.
I move we approved last meeting's minutes.
Yeah, the first, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been first and second, thank you. I will also go ahead and take roll, make sure we're doing our due diligence. Mark Bueller, if you approve, say aye. Barry McMurphy.
All right.
Mario Piero.
Aye.
Christina Gentry, aye. Donovan Dillon.
Aye.
You and Monty Soko.
Aye.
Okay, that is 6 ayes. And it passes. And approval moves on. We're going to pause before we go into our agenda items. C. We'll pause for there to be public comment. There's public in this space with us at the library, and we will receive 3 minutes of public comment before we go into the items in our agenda. So no, we're going to recognize that there are people in the space and our agenda items.
Oh, for the agenda item.
Yeah, before the agenda item. Sorry if I was clear.
Okay, sorry.
We're going to pause the agenda item C and go into public comments instead. Because we have people in the room.
So you're doing it for everybody, everybody online and everybody?
That's a good question. I'm going to take a decision here.
All right.
And I'm going to only provide the public comments for the people who are in the room for 3 minutes. And I would ask that public comment be presented at the end of our meeting for those online. So we will receive public comment. And we have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry, this is an awkward place to stand. Anyway, so all of you know me. I'm Vince Munoz. I'm with the Lawrence Tenants request for funding, and I'm also going to be here throughout the meeting to answer questions because I know you're doing that as an agenda item. I just wanted to introduce, though, because I know that there was some questions about fundraising. There were really excellent questions that really prompted us to think seriously about that. And we in Lawrence Tenants created a fundraising committee. And so we have a fundraising plan that is included in the agenda, but you may not have had a chance to read it. It's a digital copy. We also have some physical copies as well. And my 2 colleagues from Lawrence Tenants will say a little bit about that. But yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone that, because of the funding that you all supported previously, Lawrence Tenants has managed to triple its membership, educate more than 473 renters, and provide educational material and literature to hundreds more, and hold 6 educational events in just 6 months. So your support has been really impactful for us, for the community, and I will let my other colleagues talk about other things. Their comment. Thank you.
We have 3 minutes each. Hi, board members. My name is Anna, and I'm on the fundraising committee. Sorry. Now you can see me. I'm on the fundraising committee with Lawrence Tenants, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the fundraising plan that Vince just mentioned. The path to sustainability starts with the city's funding, with AHAB's funding, but it doesn't end there. So the initial AHAB grant was a catalyst allowing us to build a strong foundation, as Ben's just mentioned. And now our strategy is to broaden and diversify our funding base to make sure that we remain a permanent resource for the community. So our fundraising committee has some action plans that I can hand out a list of here in a moment. First, by the end of Q1 of next year, 2026, we plan to be actively submitting applications to local and regional foundations like the Douglas County Community Foundation and the Midwest Organizing Infrastructure Funders, as well as the national foundations like the Ford Foundation. So we want to both use foundation funds to secure some short-term funding, as well as ideally multi-year grants that can sustain us over time. Second, by mid-2026, we plan to be soliciting individual donations from our growing supporters within and allies within the community. We recently received a $500 donation from an individual who's now on our fundraising committee. And so we expect that we can secure more of these kinds of donations as the membership continues to grow and our impact continues to be seen and visible throughout the community. And third, we plan to establish an affordable sliding scale membership structure so that our funding is also rooted in the members themselves, right? We are led by tenants for tenants. We recently attended a tenant union federation convention and learned that this is common practice in tenant unions to have a sliding fee scale of membership dues. And so together, we hope that these approaches are going to diversify our funding sources and help make sure that we are an institution that lasts within the city. The city's initial investment was a seed, and your continued support into next year would come at a critical juncture to help make this sustainability a reality. And thank you. And I will pass these out while Matt shares a little bit more.
Good evening. My name is Matt, and I'm a neighbor and volunteer with Lawrence Tenants. I want to talk about what these numbers and plans mean to the people in our city. That 1,000 tenants educated isn't just a statistic. It's a single mother who got her heat fixed in winter. It's a family who successfully challenged an unfair eviction. It's students knowing that they don't have to live with mold and pests in their homes. And when tenants learn about their rights, their quality of life and the community can grow tremendously. And one of the key groups teaching these tenants about their rights is Lawrence Tenants. When you fund Lawrence Tenants, you aren't just funding an organization, you're funding change. You are directly improving the living conditions for over half of Lawrence that rents their homes by supporting an organization closest to the problem and thus closest to the solution. I've only been part of Lawrence Tenants for a short time, but I've seen how the organization moves with integrity, intentionality, and rigor. Also, I'm learning so much about my community by Lawrence Tenants. I was brought into the group by an organizer and educator, one whose position was paid for by the very funding secured last year by AHAB. Our budget goals for 2027, growing from about 220,000 to over 270,000, aren't abstract. They represent the growth needed for more staff, more materials to educate our neighbors, and more community events to build the tenant collective. We are exploring plans to solidify this future, but it will prevent our plans if AHAB does not provide the adequate amount of time needed to establish a fundraising plan and enact it. Please continue with this partnership. We can't get there without you. Invest in the health and safety of your constituents. Help us ensure every tenant in Lawrence has a place they can truly call home. Thank you so much.
Public comment.
We are moving on to public comment at the very end of our meeting. And this came as a requested ask from our liaison and also just to ensure.
Thank
that
you for the clarity.
we have this time to be in the space that we're in. Thank you for allowing that adjustment to our agenda. We can move on to agenda items.
So no other applicants have asked for or would like to talk to us for 3 minutes?
No, I don't feel like there hasn't been comments that have been given from each applicant. What we are asking is that we have the large items that we have today to discuss, and that we save public comment with everyone that is willing to provide that at the very end of our meeting, or the end of our discussion and item number 4. So
But all the applicants were not afforded the same treatment. Did you say that?
I would say that the applicants will be afforded the same treatment after we have discussion on all the items that we are discussing applications. And we will open up that public comment to all the applicants. What we were doing here was to allow for those who were in space to give public comment. And it was, they asked, and I felt it was appropriate. And so I've made that decision. However, we are all going to be receiving public comment. I mean, all of the public comment that is wanted from the list that are available will be able to speak for 3 minutes after we have our discussion on the application.
So if you showed up, you get to talk now. I'm trying to figure out the consistency in what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to be equitable about some of the things that we have presented before us. I'm moving to allow for public comment because we have the space in our agenda to do that while people were in the space who were here. I think I'm allowing personal public, our public comment because people are in the building with us. So I'm trying to allow for that flexibility in our schedule to allow for public engagement. Yeah,
Okay.
well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But we will allow for all of our applicants to provide 3 minutes each on their applications and give public comment as per usual. Again.
It seems like we should at least acknowledge that the comments that people make before and after our discussion may be influenced by our discussion. So the ones coming in afterwards may be reflective of what they hear us saying about the applications.
I want to take all that into consideration. I would like for this to be an open discussion with the board members and also all that are online who would like to provide public comment. And so this was just a transition to allow for public engagement and community engagement. And so I take inventory into what you said is absolutely valid. And we will give discussion in 3 minutes for each of the applicants, just as we have for those who are in the room. Okay, well, thank you for that. And thank you for the conversation.
Christina, is it okay if I just so that the whole board knows what was communicated to the applicants? So I emailed all of the applicants to let them know that there would be a meeting this evening where the board would be discussing the applications. Quote, applicants are welcome to log in to listen. If questions arise about your project, you may be invited to respond. Otherwise, applicant comments will be limited to the public comment period. So that regardless of if the public comment happens before or after the meeting, those are the standards communicated and will be,
Except for one applicant.
well, they got their public comment period. So
They will not comment at the end because they've had their 3 minutes.
anybody in, as I am understanding it, anybody in the room was invited to provide public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and the
That's
chair
fine.
would,
Get that. They will not have an opportunity at the end because they've had their 3 minutes.
if anybody is
On
online.
anybody online, but
Yeah.
anybody in the room will
Yeah.
not have.
Yeah, correct.
Because they've made comments.
They've already made comment. Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of odd. It's odd.
Well, thank you again for adjusting and your flexibility. We will move on to our regular agenda items. We will hear the deferment from agenda item 1. And Leah, would you provide information about that deferment?
Per city code chapter 1A, as I was reviewing it more closely, it states that advisory board shall, at the first meeting of each calendar year, select a chair and vice chair and set the time and place for the regular public meetings. And so this year is a little bit odd because we didn't start at the first of the year. The board, with the board restructuring, the terms are off the annual cycle. So we've deferred per city code, we've deferred the election of the chair and vice chair until January. That's that item.
Prior by the board, or is that just?
I think they're a little frustrated.
Yeah, that item's
So
just gonna
it
be
was part of the
deferred.
reset of the boards, so they changed the time, because we used to appoint in the fall. Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Look forward to January, we're voting for the vice
All right.
the chair. Thanks, Leah. Moving on to item 2, under C, discuss the 2026 Affordable Housing Trust Fund proposed project applications. We have the discussion materials, and each of us were provided a discussion guide along with a project summary. This discussion guide will help us to have reflective questions that will allow for a deep discussion, as they point out 5 areas of discussion questions that we could examine with each of the applicants. There are also additional questions to apply on the lens of new development applications. And so we will use these questions to help design our conversation, and please apply them during the talk that we have and discussion of each of the applicants. So I will also state that on the back, or in the additional paper that goes on, it talks about the Affordable Housing Advisory Board goals. And so those will also be important for us to discuss and make a collaboration or make sure that it is in compliance with our agreed upon advisory board goals. And also a place for everyone housing objectives, which was mentioned throughout the applications and throughout the application process as well. We'll also use those questions, or I'm sorry, these prompts and these objectives to use as a lens for all of our applications and in discussion that we have today. So moving to also the project summaries. There's a summarization of each of the applicants, and we will be looking at each of the applicants as we have seen them in application or in presentation. So I believe we'll start community engagement applications and go on so forth, just as they've been presented to us in our last meeting. And so we have all the discussion materials and the project summaries. I would pause and ask if there are any questions about this from the board or any things that you want to discuss before we use these discussion materials and apply them.
I have a question. Do we have time restraints around discussion, or are we just free for all and how long we're spending on each application?
I would refer to board.
Just because we have an hour and a half to get through all of this.
Four and 6, 7.
What was your question?
Are we allotting time to talk about each application, or are we just gonna,
Look at 13 applications.
we want to give them that global? That's just requesting, perhaps we
5 minutes?
spend 5 minutes.
So we'll find, 5 minutes. We'll do a loose kind of check-in on that time. I think we'll make sure that we keep this in 5 and under.
Amazing, perfect,
5 minutes or 7 minutes and under. All right, well, great, thank you.
yes. So 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So thank you. We'll go forward and go to the first discussion of the community engagement applications. We'll look at the Homeless Resource Center and look at project application and have a discussion on the.
Thanks for that. We did exactly.
Mhm. So I'll start the time.
I mean, I look at the AHAB goals and I don't see how this aligns.
There's, I
struggling to see how this aligns. If somebody could explain that to me.
think the only one that I saw it would fall under. Get to it, is the, yeah, on the AHAB goals
So,
are the 7 community awareness and
Awareness, community
engagement.
Okay.
Up, I can have some time to kind of go through all of these and my thoughts on this particular application, while I appreciate deeply the desire to bring awareness. I work in this field. This is my particular area of expertise and how we educate communities. Awareness campaigns simply do not meet the criteria without action, without helping to promote buy-in from community about how we are going to move forward with addressing affordable housing. So that's one of my big concerns with this as well. Awareness is great. One, we're funding and have funded a community educator to talk about affordable housing in retrospect with tenants. I don't see any effort to collaborate with that particular group. I am wondering, like, how does this advance affordable housing outside of a community engagement group that exists in the A Place for Everyone plan? Because there is a group and there is folks that are meeting consistently and moving forward that particular strategic plan that actually has goals aligned with it and has strategy aligned with it and has been engaging in the public. So I'm questioning why behind this, with also I love that people want to continue to explain why we need to address affordable housing, but I think a lot of people can step outside and say, yeah, this is nationally the #1 issue amongst communities. So to me, it's not necessarily about the awareness that we need affordable housing or what it is. It's what are we actually going to do to solve it? And so I would have rather seen something like that in this application. And I would have really liked to see partnerships. We have Justice Matters, who does this as well, who doesn't ask for funding. So I'll stop there.
Jonathan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the previous comments. I think weighing applications between categories was something that I was trying to do. And I think the biggest issue with this application was that it didn't move people towards action. As was previously stated, I think awareness is really good. But I think like that was something that I was missing from the application. And then in that awareness, it seemed to be, unless there was some targeting I didn't quite understand or wasn't included with where the resources would be sent or how they'd be targeted, that it centers a lot of people um who either aren't struggling in regards to like finding affordable housing or directly impacted, but rather people who should know more. And I think with all of the applications we received, and the funding request, that was also something that stood out to me, with this application.
So I had an issue with targeting affected household stress of immigrants and those with ESL, English as a second language. Limited English proficiency is maybe not the best way to say that, but none of the materials are going to be translated in multiple languages was not brought forth. So to say that you're going to prioritize a community and then not have language access and how you're sharing the materials, I'm wondering who the audience is here and why it can't be for those who are experiencing and impacting, that they also get language access in this. So it was something that was missing. Perhaps there's more to that, but I also questioned that.
good idea, one place to ask. In a climate where there are 1.2 million. So. That as well.
let's go on to the next application. We have an educator for everyone. Using the discussion questions, how will this project align with it and advance the goals for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and ADA?
Seven again. I would argue it can, obviously 7, 6, I think is a part of that and the tenant makeup. There wasn't anything specific other than like, because of the population that we're working with, it's inevitably going to be talking about racial equity. And then I heard in the public comment that it does, having conversations with tenants, empowering tenants to know their rights does inevitably lead to improved conditions of affordable homes. Because that is helping tenants maintain their rights and exercise their rights and ensure that the quality of their homes is being maintained, which has been quite an issue in our community with how many complaints are received, how many struggles that tenants are experiencing. Survey, if anything, really points to that being an inequitable struggle. So I think it does hit at least those 3 particular goals.
Although they didn't specifically address it, I think secondary benefit, or maybe the primary benefit, is what they're proposing to do, what they're doing with tenants is going to create healthier, more sustainable relationships between tenants and landlords, which leads to stable housing, like continued stable housing.
They're also advocating for policy, which is not something I saw in the other community application. That direct advocacy to action is really important. So I feel like funding another cycle one is leading to the stability of that organization. If they have fundraising plans identified, that gives me confidence that we're not going to continuously fund this program for many years, but rather we're just continuing to help them in that launch phase. Which, if it is a goal for us to continue to increase community awareness and engagement, I would feel remiss to not at least be funding something that would push towards that.
My view of this program is it deals with the demand for the number of people that we need to help. And projects typically deal with the supply, meaning create units. And, I think these policies are laudable, but I think we have to put them in the lens of how much money we have and what we're trying to accomplish, how many projects are close to the line and, beginning, middle, or end of the line where we can actually see units on the ground. I am disappointed that there's not as much private side money. I don't share your feeling that they're going to become stable and not ask for money. I think without it, without private support, I'm on several nonprofit boards, and everybody's going to write a grant. Everybody is going to write a grant, and the names that we hear are the same ones over and over. And the temperature in the world, in the United States, is difficult, and I'm disappointed that we partially funded it and we've seen no results of raising private capital. That probably disappoints me the most.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Well, they raised $500.
Right, but if their intended application is to educate the community, why are we setting an expectation?
Well, we need to raise money to do what we're supposed to do. It's like starting any organization. I think they need to speak from their hearts and their wallets too. I think without us, they can't do it. And I'm suggesting that they must do it with others so they can become sustainable. And government money is not.
For government.
This is tax.
Community money back into the community.
Yeah. So, that division, I understand too, I wrote down, as a barrier, right? I mean, as a concern, like, tax money is collected from both renters and homeowners. And using these funds to educate one group on how to legally oppose another could be seen as public resources to create division. However, I don't know if that is what is the goal or is the curriculum that's built into the education. I'm an educator, so there's a hard line where you can't, how do you measure what is tangible education? And how can you measure the results of educating people on things? Well, the tangibility is that you get more people in positions of power that are either looking at policy, working towards what it is to really collectively collaborate on this issue. And I see that the people in the space have been collaborating with other organizations very effectively. And so it doesn't seem as though there's going to be a division on this kind of education, more like a collaboration.
It's hard to say when there's a power imbalance that's already established, when you own your home or own secondary properties, opposed to someone who has zero equity, who has zero stake, who is paying above and beyond cost to live in the place. There's already an existing power imbalance. And so I think there is a deservedness to be able to work towards finding balance. And I think that's what this group is doing.
Trying to listen to everybody, and I see some value in this. I don't see doubling down on this when they haven't come to the table. So I could, in my personal thought, is we funded the level we funded last year and fund the one position. And when they come back to the table next year and they have been able to show that they're not going to get to $170,000 in 1 year. Unlikely. I work in the fundraising business. So, but if they could get partway to one, they've done some good work. Let's see them do some more. Let's see them figure out how to become sustainable. Let's not double them in size when they haven't shown the capacity to do the fundraising work. That's my opinion.
Yeah, to go ahead and chime in, I think hearing the fundraising model that's being proposed definitely shows that the group is in the right step. And something that stood out for me, especially looking at their metrics around membership and like through their trainings that they've done, is that there's definitely community buy-in and need. I work in the organizing space, so I know that like bringing in that many people in a period of 6 months is a lot of hard work. So I do think uh, fundraising for the organization is a big priority. I think seeing what they could do with the resources that they have is really important. And then also looking to um, other applications that mention people really, really relying on resources that help with like home repair and things like that. I definitely can see the work that they're doing being needed across the community, even outside of just their own organization's mission, the impact it could help in regards to other services that are provided in the affordable housing conversation.
Quickly, and this is maybe more for Vince than this group, but it's going to be important if fundraising is a part of the package that they absolutely certain that they're on the right side of the IRS on what they're doing. I don't know how that works, not being a 501c3 or and how it works with a fiscal sponsor.
Before we move on to the next project. We will look at the accessibility modifications and home repair applications. Lawrence Habitat for Humanity.
Programmers. I think what I noticed on the development side is there's not an appetite, probably because of cost and the availability to maximize the amount of units. There's no home ownership conversation happening over there. So we're continuously addressing and meeting the need for rental properties, which is fantastic, but the home ownership component and maintaining housing stock is so important. And so I'm always very in favor of continuing to support homeowners who have made that investment. And the affordability of maintaining a home is not something that a lot of people think about, but so I think it does continue to keep the goal that we have proposed as far as AHAB is continuing to keep that housing stock available instead of allowing it to become dilapidated, keeping people housed. Making sure the folks who don't have all the resources can access them. So I think it hits a lot of our goals in general.
And I think, local and private funds are what can make that work. I've worked on the, federal fund side of doing homeowner rehab, and it immediately gets very complicated because you've got to deal with lead payments. You've got some real barriers to, doing that work and bringing houses up to the condition that's required if you're using any kind of federal resources.
I like this application too. I like all three of the prepared applications. My struggle is how much as a total amount of money we want to spend. I would like to fund, my personal opinion, I'd like to fund something to all of them. I don't know if you can do everything to all of them.
I think what's helpful is that they've given us households that they can impact costs, so we can make that determination. It seems like, you know, especially with the next few applications, we'll talk about, they also utilize this particular program. So this seems to be like one of the primary programs. And then if something doesn't fit that criteria, then we have some safety nets for the other ones. So I think as we're all thinking about funding amounts, being able to support one or a few in each of them would be important, but.
Yeah, I also, aging in place and all the things. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking about the health, that's not for aging. Also, no, I'm sorry, I'm different one. Yes, the cost per household to assist 15 and 16 families, $250,000. It's 16 families, it's roughly $15,625 per household. So yeah, the maths, 10% overhead. There was a little bit of admin that they also paid us as what was the math, and there was transparency in that. I also like their prioritization process, saying do they already have families waiting? So yes.
And they do have an aging in place program. So while they may not be focused on exclusively seniors, they do offer that. I think the next application.
The reality is a lot of people who are homeowners and can't afford to stay there because they can't house maintain.
I don't see if Donovan or any of members were. Okay. All right. We will then, if we are finished discussing this application, move on to next. Next will be the Senior Resource Center. The project application was again for modifications and repairs for low income seniors.
My only question on this is, they do have a requirement to stay in the home for a year. Otherwise they will have to pay back. Am I correct? It's this one and not the other one. I hope it's this one. Was a question answered in the last meeting, and I watched it, but I don't know if I caught it or not. The landlord involved in that conversation, because if somebody gets their home fixed and then rent gets raised or something happens and they can no longer afford to live in that unit, or, you know, something happens, or how do you do that particular promise of a year for rentals? I guess I was just a little like, how does that work? How does that work?
I might, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a concern, kind of the oversight, for me, like you said, landlord or owner. So we're while providing home repairs to low-income seniors is definitely a worthy goal. We talked about, a significant area of concern with tax-funded projects, especially at the scale, is a lack of like oversight. I know the Senior Resource Center and MEG are, doing a great job at oversight. But at $2,500 to $4,000 per home, there's a risk, maybe possibly of fraud or waste that's heightened without strict accountability measures. And what I mean by that is like contractors overcharging for services or repairs not properly completed, or the selection process for homes lacks a little bit of transparency, but I'm sure the built-in relationship the Senior Resource Center has with these applicants is probably solid. But I don't know about the procedures, about looking and maintaining and what that looks like for certified, repaired and, fixable, in that space. So that's my only concern was the oversight accountability about that, how the funds will be spent in a way that would be successful in the use of repair.
Is Megan here to answer? Is anyone from the Senior Resource Center able to answer that particular, both of those questions, I guess? Because
Concerned about the project.
I'm more concerned about the landlord question. I just want to know how they tackled that. This is a project we've been funding, it looks like, the last couple of years. They're not here. Okay. Well, maybe they can answer that between now and.
It'd be nice if they got a freeze on the rent for a
Yeah,
year or two to guarantee that,
yeah.
something like that.
I mean, if that's a possibility, that's amazing to be able to work with
Because the
landlords.
landlord's gonna get a $3,000, $4,000 improvement.
There's a benefit.
It's getting a benefit at some point. They are.
I know, I mean, when I was doing landlord incentives for the housing authority, we didn't have that particular, like, please keep this individual housed, otherwise you're gonna have to return the funds. So we had that, that's definitely a
So
possibility.
landlord, you were benevolent about that.
We ensure the tenants, like, if we're gonna give you incentives to improve your property, then the trade-off is you keep the housing affordable and you stay in the program and keep your tenants, so. It's possible.
It seems somewhat less critical when you're talking about $1,500, $2,500, but when you're getting into $15,000 improvement to a house, then. Yeah.
Right, like the previous application.
Yeah.
No, Senior Resource Center,
Senior Resource.
which is, it is low funding, so it maybe it's
So
a non-issue.
Talked about out of the box things that, nothing else would cover.
Right.
The program covered.
I think we asked them about that.
Yeah.
The next-
They can follow up.
Ask them to follow it, provide a working plan for that.
If there's more discussion or questions, I'll address this applicant. Okay, if we are completed and that application, we're just rolling on through. We're going to go to the Independence Inc. project application for accessible housing.
They also have the 1 year occupancy commitment.
Right.
And we asked last time during the presentation if there was a landlord agreement. They said they have a robust process. They said would be on that.
Cool.
I don't know how they, I'm curious on any of these programs that have, including Habitat, that have an occupancy requirement, how they enforce that recapture. One thing to say, you move, you gotta pay us back, or if you sell the house, you gotta pay us back. But is there particularly with larger investments, is there any kind of a second mortgage or lien or?
I think, I was gonna say Habitat's the only one with a lien, and that's $5,000 for 5 years. So, but they exclusively work with homeowners and rental properties. So, and that would be an interesting adventure to go in the landlord to.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you might have a land
And I
system
think
of banks, and
Right,
then the tenant you were trying to help is out.
right.
So,
And again, these are multi-year funded programs, kind of like the legacy programs that they have at this point. So I'm interested as to why maybe this question hasn't come up before. But, or perhaps there just hasn't been issue with it, so.
Well, and that's if the AHAB has criteria that you all would like to see in order for them to be funded, that's something that we can discuss with the city attorney's office and put in their agreement.
And that's nothing else to say other than this does meet our goals of accessibility and serving senior housing, folks with disability. They've executed on the funding that we've given them in previous years very well. So it's a great program. Despite some of the questions we may have, maybe they just aren't encountering that, so.
So kind of a flip side of that is, of that question is, if the tenant moves out, how do they deal with any reversal of modifications? You know, if the landlord says, I don't want this ramp anymore, what happens?
have to send some kind of consent before they did the alterations to someone else's property.
Right, right. Oh, it's what-
Independent Sync is here. Okay.
Maybe it's because their modifications, a lot of them being mobile homes, that they also talked about there being more of an influx of apartments and homes that they are giving accessibility modifications to. So it has been an increase of other homes that they've been helping with state and assistance.
Want to ask Daniel, since Daniel is here from Independent Sync. So,
Well, I'm gonna pause here because in my effort to make sure I was reaching out to everyone, I do not want to be unethical and giving everyone their 3 minutes. And we are really kind of pressed for time, but I do want to allow for that. So if that's okay with the board, to allow for 3 minutes if the.
for that to respond.
If the applicant is in the Zoom, to give their 3 minutes on any of the questions that we've asked here, so that we can have that conversation, including with the real-time response, if that's okay.
I mean, we said we were gonna allow them to answer questions. I didn't realize there's a time.
Are you suggesting at the end?
I'm suggesting because we are talking about this concept, or we're talking about the applicant right now, and they happen to be here, they can get 3 minutes to answer immediately the questions that we asked.
You can answer in less time.
Okay, so since there has been a question posed to the applicant, Independence Inc., if there is a representative that is in a Zoom and can provide 3 minutes of a answer to the questions that the board members have, we would love to have that.
Daniel, are you available to respond to any questions?
Yes, I can respond. It won't let me start my video, but I can do my audio, if that's okay.
Well,
Okay, sure. So to, I guess, respond, I'm having a little difficulty hearing everybody, but I think from what I heard, one of the questions was, how do we handle if, say, a landlord wants the property returned back to the original state? So on the actual application, there's the landlord agreement form. And then on that form, they have to select if they want the property returned back to its original state. So far, everybody's selected that they're fine with leaving it the way that it is. If we ever had somebody select saying that they wanted it returned back to the original state, particularly if it was a large project like a ramp, or I guess even an accessible shower, we'd have to have that conversation with the tenant to make sure they still wanted to move forward, because we wouldn't take responsibility for actually reverting it back. That would be the tenant's responsibility. So they'd have to know that going in and take that responsibility. But so far, that's not been an issue. And then I guess as far as the landlords dealing with paying the money back. So the agreement we reach is with a tenant, so we don't have any kind of mechanism to recoup a modification from the landlord. If we were going to recoup, it would be from the tenant. And we've not run into that situation either. A lot of the folks that we're helping with these modifications have been in their home for a really long time, and they just want to continue to maintain their home that they already have. Particularly for homeowners, they may have owned their home for a really long time. They just want to continue to stay there. But even for renters, if they find a place that they can make accessible to them, they typically don't want to move. And part of that too is trying to do a really good job of screening applicants. And that's part of the initial interview meeting that we have on site with them, is to make sure that they are committed to staying there long term, and what that would mean if they didn't. I hope that answers everyone's questions.
On to the next. Which is the housing stabilization applications, and this would be Douglas County Housing Stabilization Collaborative. This application, what are the project's strengths?
I think the strengths are the amount of people they're able to support is quite a bit. 174 households is in this time, incredible feat.
Any areas of concern?
You still know what?
Yeah. I'm wondering why this is not a budget request to the city. Because on the county side, it is a budget request to the county. I understand we are the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. I understand that, but I'm just trying to wonder why emergency assistance when we have an like Housing and Homeless Services Department that does have emergency funding, budget request capabilities, why that's not something that's happening. I think we've talked about this particular application and its funding every single year of like,
Right.
can we continue to allocate this amount of money, which is incredibly necessary? That I'm not gonna say that the amount of money is not gonna be used, it will be, but I'm questioning why that wasn't a strategy. For that's a sustainable program. If you can be a budget line in a city budget, a county budget, that's a sustainable program.
This got started during COVID when we had COVID funding and we were dealing with emergency situations. And we haven't been able to figure out how to find other funding. And I don't know if they've been looking, but every year we say, this is the wrong place to find the funding for this program. It's a great program.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I just don't believe we're the right place to fund it.
Well, it feels,
Sounds like a city would like us to fund it as opposed to.
Well, for them, it's a budget problem.
I know. Well, welcome
To city government.
No,
Right.
welcome to every household sitting here.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if Jill is on and can answer that question.
Jill, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. So is the question is more why it hasn't been requested as a funding item from the city?
Yeah.
Outside of this process?
Correct.
We've had those conversations before with the city manager, and I would just say, like, at the end of the day, the city manager's office develops the budget. And it's a leadership, it's a discussion that is made, a determination that is made with the leadership of the city. We would very much desire to have a process that looks very much like the counties. It's built into our budget. It's a line item in a program department. This is just historically how the funding has been allocated. So I don't have any good answer for this. It has to be advocated and requested by a city department and then supported by city management to stay included in the budget. That's my interpretation. That's from how it works in our organization. We identify a need, we submit a request. The county administrator supports that request to go forward. It goes through the budget process. The county commission approves it or denies it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would love to make a recommending request as a body that we ask our city to have a process that would allow that, because this feels like we're, again, $1.2 million every year is less and less. And we're asking to uphold that amount of money in a 13 application.
I completely agree with you, but I think we ought to just do it with the funding request, with the funding that we offer. They didn't tell us, we're gonna tell them.
Okay,
Maybe that's part of our
We didn't
recommendation.
start this game.
right. I'm
So-
just saying,
So
you
what
know,
I'm saying is rather than, it's great to all sign a letter and all agree that.
well,
city-
yeah, I'm
city
saying
ought-
if we
city
make
ought
it.
to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But.
No, I agree. Like that, this is obviously gonna influence how much I think we should allocate to them, and I think that should absolutely be a signal. I hate that we're putting people's emergency rental assistance in jeopardy because frankly, we have a city who's not willing to come to the process, not to speak ill on this, but this is
Yeah.
the fourth year we'd be funding this, third year we'd be funding this.
It's longer than that.
Right? Because this is CARES Act money is what this started with. So I guess I have a frustration with that and
CARES Act come through us.
Well, no, I don't, can CARES Act, but the COVID money.
Right.
you got
We
allocated.
we got supplemented by that. We did for a couple years.
That didn't go into the trust fund, but it did support other affordable housing projects in the city. Yeah. Yeah, Jill has her hand raised if you want her to be able to speak.
I just wanted to offer one more, like, I appreciate the comments from Marielle. I think just the one caution here is that the city has already adopted its 2026 budget. So the window to advocate for this is next, it's summer of next year, or spring of next year for the 2027 budget process. So that's the only caution I would share here.
Yeah, I guess this also should have, if we have been asking for this for several years, I would also say, why hasn't this been brought to us as a conversation? But
Well, if I could, it has been brought to the AHAB as a conversation, and staff has recommended or communicated that it's not in alignment with stated AHAB goals, and continued to bring this conversation to the AHAB to consider. And at one point, staff wrote a recommendation to the city commission that was in contrary to the AHAB's recommendation to fund this program through trust funds. Just for your consideration, as long as the AHAB continues to fund it, there's really no motivation for, this is the mechanism that the program has been funded. So that's not to influence your decision one way or another, but the staff has been very clear with AHAB and this commission.
Public hearings during budget session and said, you need to spend your own money or not this money. They just said, thank you for your time. I mean, they got different problems than we have, but don't feel bad. The result will be the same.
And yeah, the future funding uncertainty is it's really, putting that pressure, added pressure on the unintended consequences of not supporting.
Well, it puts it on this body
Yeah.
to make a decision on rental assistance that should be supported by our city government, because we have that precedent from the county. And I hope our commissioners are listening to this meeting.
There's a lot of issues like this between the city and county.
Right,
And this is not the first one.
right.
So
Anyway, that sucks.
On
On that.
I think we have, if we are ready to move on to the next
Yeah.
application. Thank you for the discussion. The next application we have to consider would be the Morris Douglas Housing Authority New Horizons project.
all in.
This is vouchers. This is guaranteed as subsidy assistance and sustainable subsidy assistance. You get moved onto a permanent voucher after 24 months. It's addressing the gap that HUD cannot. Emergency housing vouchers are gonna be gone, which was really the only mechanism to address homelessness at the HUD level. And so,
Their success rate is incredible.
right,
So
right. And being someone who is a part of this program and able to help shepherd that, this helped a lot of people get off of that list and get into permanent, stable housing. So I have nothing but great things to say about it.
you have 3 minutes if we're done.
Great review. Okay, the next project that we have to consider would be the Morris Douglas County Housing Authority New Development and Rehab.
The tiny homes project?
A lot of cost per foot in a heart attack. There is something to be said for getting all the things you need on a small space, whether it's 1,000 feet or 64. Whatever it is. I didn't check the dimensions, but so there's some intensity of expenses with plumbing and heating and air and all that. But I would like to support both of them. That's so.
I think
That's it. What I said.
the precedent has already been set too with tenants to homeowners doing similar projects with Peasley Tech. So I feel,
Got the two great groups holding on the rope. I like it.
yeah, it's a great example of, I mean, like, this is the partnership we want to see. And this is permanent affordability, which I cannot say enough, even though it is rental properties, which I hope one day we see something in this space again that is towards home ownership, but I know that's tough to tackle.
It's a big number for the unit period. That's all. That's the only
Yeah.
downside I see with it. So, but, I like everything else.
On the deeper affordability checkbox, I think it hits that one because they are saying they're gonna base the rent on tenant's income, so we got that one. Accessibility is not there,
No.
so it's not hitting that at all, and you can't with 240 square feet, but.
Yeah, and I think to Galal's comment on that, the last meeting, you know, some programs are gonna be very structured towards having accessible units. Some are gonna meet the particular need of, we need 1-bedroom apartments. That list is big and is years long. And so if we can get 2 units on the ground that are gonna meet somebody's need, I think that's meeting a goal, though. I would love to see an accessible tiny house. I just don't know if that exists in this one.
I know that.
Just take another extra 150 square feet.
Right. What is tiny?
Anything under
And 500?
400, something like that.
Okay,
But these are 200.
Yeah.
Go to IKEA.
yeah.
They have apartments set up there by square footage. You can see what it looks like.
And I think too, Lawrence, in speaking specific, tiny home projects could and have faced neighborhood opposition when they've been influenced in other counties in the United States. So the NIMBY pressures and all of the common obstacles to new development exists. But with Lawrence in the space that they are occupying and placing this, I think it's just going to add to the construction and to the conversation of affordable homes in our community. So I think it sits right with us.
Redirect that conversation around what housing looks like. I think that's a serious conversation that this nation needs to have about what housing looks like. It's different than it was 40 years ago, 10 years ago.
More like it was 40 or 50 years ago and less what it looks like today.
Right. We're not going to build mega mansions
It
anymore.
looks like before construction, right?
Right.
1200 square foot homes.
So we're going back. It's a full circle moment. Okay.
Okay.
Well, hopefully we get some kind of, focus and lens, especially in opposition for where tiny homes weren't welcome into neighborhoods. So
Right.
just talking down the line.
Yeah.
The next application, we're moving on to make sure that I'm not missing any comment coming from our other board member online. We have the Cohen Esri Development Group. The project applications from one of them.
That elevator is really fresh.
This project would be
It's
under
an elevator situation.
new development and rehab application, so we'll be also applying the same kind of lens, but also asking about additional questions, which I think we also asked in Douglas County's housing project of tiny homes. But about the feasibility of the project. Well, the project's construction is one conversation and answer you can give to that as the next 12 to 24 months is that's feasible beginning construction for this project. But I like to also talk about, and since there has been written comment and follow-up conversations coming from the applicant about the city's priorities of development for fully accessible units, and what does that mean for this applicant and its accessibility for their priority population.
It's still hard for me to imagine having 5 accessible units in a senior living complex. That just doesn't make sense to me, especially if aging in places and supporting seniors aging in place is a model that we believe in. I love 94 units, but if the population can't successfully live in the 94 units, I'm not really sure.
It's not completely without 95% of the units being accessible. Every unit in the building subject to fair housing.
Right.
Fair housing design
Right.
standards, as well as some additional stuff that Kansas housing layers on top of that. So they are wheelchair navigable. They have blocking for grab bars, I believe, so they would have to, install grab bars where they're needed. It wouldn't have fully accessible showers and some of the other, kitchen cabinets and some of those features that the UFAS units would.
They did respond that they could increase the number.
Yeah, I
So I think
guess we would also
Move
increase.
forward. If I were to push this forward, I would say we, 10 or 15 or
Yeah.
20%. And that might mean we lose some units because that sometimes requires extra square footage. So there might be some units lost, or maybe you go down to 90 or 92.
Mhm.
But I think we can do that. I like the project. I like that it's self-parked.
Yeah.
This is a high quality project in the fact that it's self-parked. I mean, you don't get that in Lawrence. We're not talking about garden stuff. For somebody that's a senior to park in a garage and not deal with the snow
It's a great
and the
advantage.
rain. I mean, that's a nice
Are they replacing the public spots?
No. Not really. The way I looked at it, they're basically parking the building, the public parking.
Because that was my impression, and then
I
someone
don't
asked
think
me,
they have
well,
spots.
aren't they replacing the public parking in addition to parking the tenants?
I didn't see it that way, but
Do we have a parking count?
I think it was in the extended friend.
I learned that comment late, so I didn't.
Yeah, it was over 100, like 107 or something like that.
They're providing, my understanding is they're providing a parking stall for every unit.
Total parking 107. So that'd be one per unit plus maybe 10 for visitors. So they're really not replacing the public.
If I said this project replaces, parks the tenants that are in the building.
Parks the tenants.
And provides public parking for the rest of us.
There will not be public parking.
I don't think it
Say, no,
They're crazy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think it's crazy.
It provides the, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my only other thing is asking for $1 million is just not gonna happen.
Well, now we have a budget. Okay.
Asking for $1 million taxpayer funds for a 94-unit senior housing project, only one elevator raises significant concern. And
I think
because of I was, a friend of mine was working in Greenwich Woods when they had that fire. And it was a pretty significant, though it's not the same kind of unit. It was units that were habitable and people were mobile. But you can lose electricity in that elevator. And I watched and witnessed people being carried down the stairs to safety who were aged.
I hope you're not taking an elevator.
I have a real concern about taxpayer dollars going to support, $1 million taxpayer dollars going to support a project that really. is not
What's the
just
difference between that and the Yeah, this is additional subsidy because the city's providing the ground. So the
So-
city's already, they already got the grounds for nothing. Right.
Right,
Which is great. I applaud the city for doing that.
and they're already awarded like that, right?
No.
No, they haven't been awarded like that. This will get them next month. Okay, I was.
Yeah,
Did that happen? I got
just
it.
to chime in online, I think I agree with I think I have big concerns around accessibility. But one of the things that concerns me, especially with this being a $1 million project, is that a lot of the accessibility features they said could be added in would come at an extra cost. And not being able to meet the $1 million request and those added costs of the things that we would be looking for to make this project stronger.
And they're gonna come back for funding.
Yeah.
Cycle, right? That's already stated. And we said no.
They withdrew their
Withdrew.
application.
Okay. So, pros, I'm here for more senior housing. I have concern, if they're willing to increase the amount of accessible units to at least more than 5 in a 94-unit complex, I think that's, while it may shrink or it's gonna increase costs if they try to keep that unit number. I really struggle with using 95% of our funds, if not more.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know how much this body can control the design of a building. That's ultimately the planning folks and the city commission, right? But it can certainly be part of our recommendation that they have more access if funding is offered.
Right.
Or recommended that they have more accessibility, and I think that particularly that elevator. If you look at the building design, the building is 200, according to their sketches, 250 some feet long. That means and the elevator is at the far north end. That means that people in the farthest units are going to be navigating well over 150, 200 feet to get to the elevator. And the same is going to be true in the parking garage.
And coming back.
And coming back.
500 feet and go somewhere twice.
Right.
Right, so,
And did they say, that another elevator was possible in a design? Did they entertain that?
it's possible it would take space.
Yeah, I mean, elevators are $300,000 ad.
Right, but I'm also in the camp of do this correctly, don't just put up housing and call it senior housing because you can. You know, do it for the
I
best.
wish it said it's affordable housing. I wish it would have said seniors.
Right,
Mhm.
right. I mean, I'm sure that's points on a light tech project.
Right. Right, I believe that the next year's QAP, the 2026 QAP does have a minimum of 2 elevators for anything over 75 units.
Mm.
What's QAP?
The qualified allocation plan that governs the,
I don't know.
It's your lingo, and I appreciate it. I won't remember it 10 minutes, but.
So if we choose not to fund this and the light tech application is not approved, if they try to reapply next year for light tech, they're gonna be required to change their design plans.
Not a question.
thought about that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. I would almost be more willing. I mean, also
would almost-
holding the
Yeah,
light tech state matches going away.
I would almost
Right, that's
lean,
the other part of that picture.
yeah, I would almost lean towards partial funding, whatever you want to call it, with contingent upon 2 elevators. More units or
Additional
something like that,
units.
just make it contingent upon it. If they don't want it, they don't take it,
Right, because they
Comes
can
back to
say
this.
no.
something like that.
That seems.
One thing I really like about this is a high rent district of town.
Mhm.
I mean, this is a great location.
That's a good
I
mixed
mean,
income.
you're not gonna get many of these opportunities, I don't think, in that kind of part of
Right.
town. So
Yeah,
that's something to think about. Their cost per unit's $315,000 per door, which is a little high. That's part of that standard rent parking. Yeah.
I mean,
Don't
yeah,
want to parking for less.
I'm here to encourage
So,
with some
yeah.
conditions.
Okay. So-
Next, we'll be reviewing will be the Fort Hill.
We're going just one by one.
You just have one.
Oh, Fort Hill, sorry, not Flint.
Everybody.
Permanently affordable.
I'll speak to supporting this, but not at that level. I think there's other ways to get across the line. And I don't really know, because I'm not familiar with the programming and the funding and all the capital and all that, but what is this, a $50 million project? What's the big number? Huge.
Huge.
I want to help them, but not a lot.
So with what you're saying, what you're saying is with the previous grant, whatever award and this award, they bid 14,500 subsidy per unit. Cohen was asking for 10,000, just by comparison.
Mm.
So, I'm with you. I think maybe this is a little more richer than I would fund this, but I do love the project.
They're fine. I'm not trying to play chicken with them. I'm just hoping that we've got other mouths to feed, people that can care about, and here's some money and get it going.
Yeah, that's part of that.
Yeah, the permanent side.
Yeah, 10,000 for Cohen, a unit is for 30 years. This is
Forever.
So they're,
Yeah, but
weigh in all those things.
that was my biggest incentive is
Yeah.
if we can say we're getting this many units permanently affordable, and mixed units too. We're not just talking single bedroom units, which.
Get to your point on where it is.
Right, another great location. And
I just love putting things in a land trust.
So totaling, if they received, an amount in 2023 of $1,300,000. They're only asking for $800,000. Is there anything, and I should probably go.
Attention library patrons, the time is 7:30 and the library is closing at 8 p.m. We ask any patron needing a library card to come to the accounts desk immediately, since we will stop issuing new cards in 15 minutes. Any children or teens needing help calling for a ride home should go to the children's desk now. Thank you.
Hey, Leah,
Yes, go ahead, Donovan. Or
can you loudly and clearly announce what application we're switching to when we transition? It's a little like mumbly on my end.
Sorry, the microphone's way over there.
Floret Hill. Thank you.
Examining Floret Hill.
I love this. I also know that we can probably not fund it fully. It's just the reality of holding 13 applications right now.
Well, I was looking at the previous applications and their awards amount, and I was just a little confused. Maybe this group can help. $800,000 is, not really, this is a massive project. So are there any like gaps that I'm missing? Because the viability of this project is not going to pay off the 121 affordable multifamily units. Are there other costs besides this 1 million and other things that they procedure that are missing?
I mean, they're looking at getting a LIHTC to cover it.
they're already awarded.
They're
like-
awarded 32,000 tax credit. Tax credit.
I forgot to ask the question about the vacant lot. That's value.
Mhm.
Oh,
Somebody-
the lot,
The lot we're not talking about. I mean, they weren't hiding it. There's a lot that they're trying to attract. What was it? Daycare or something?
oh, the commercial.
Commercially developed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did that at the city's request, actually, because the city collects more in sales tax.
No, I'm-
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the game's not over. There's gonna be revenue there
Mhm.
generated. We don't know if they're gonna lease the ground, don't know if they're gonna sell it, don't know anything.
Right, and
But
yeah, they don't know either.
yeah, but we usually think, lot 10, 704 Ohio. That's it. Well, this is 704 Ohio, plus this little side piece that's got value. So.
Yeah, Yeah.
That will be developed as commercial.
There's some money there somehow. I can't believe it's gonna be free to somebody, so.
Just
Whether they
makes,
land lease it or not, and I didn't ask them, I'm
They're on-
disingenuous in that.
they're on the line if you
They
want to
are?
ask them.
Please, show me how stupid I am.
They also have an application.
Devin or David, sorry.
They've also applied for federal home loan bank funds, but I believe that doesn't get announced till December.
yeah.
Okay, do we have someone from Floret Hill, is that what we're looking at? Yes, Floret Hill, who would like to answer Mark's question. Do you have a direct question, Mark?
Yeah.
Devin or David, are you available to answer a question?
Trying to get unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I was trying to get unmuted. We are trying to use that commercial lot as a subsidy to this 121 units. We'd like to use maybe potentially a daycare, dermatologist. I mean, something that benefits the site. But that is probably 2 years off. We are virtually ready to go on this project. And whatever shortfall we have in funding, if you recall, we were trying to develop a difficult site, and this site had a lot of infrastructure issues. We have covered 3.2 million of that, but we needed the 800,000 to cover that. So hopefully the board will consider not cutting off too much of this request, because it could cause a delay in us being able to find replacement funding.
Yeah, so in my world, so, you know, closing's coming up, you know, final. But in 2 years, you're gonna do something with that site, although it will augment your project, you're gonna own that, right?
That is correct.
There's value there, correct? So if in 2 years you sell it, where do those proceeds go?
Those proceeds are not necessarily going to the affordable housing project because we're trying to get it funded through 4% tax credits, the advisory board, and our syndicator.
But the sale of that property is not coming back to anybody. Somebody's gonna inure the value of that piece of land, right?
Correct.
Or is it a different project?
It will be a different project as a development. And we would be the developers of that project.
So it does get back to you, whether it's back in this form, fashion, tranche, whatever you want to cut, you know. Okay. Thank you.
But it can't be used to help fund this apartment complex that's ready to close.
I get it. I get it. Thank you.
So, Dave, since our last meeting, have you had any conversations with KHRC about additional credit or additional resources? I know the 4% deal, you can't use any of the federal funds, but have you had a conversation with them about the funding gap and whether
We have had a conversation, but we were kind of waiting to see the conclusion of this award so we would know what to go back for.
That's good to know.
got your request is about, well, it's almost exactly 2/3 of what's available.
Yeah. Let's prepare for this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
There are no additional conversations or discussions the board has on this project. We'll move on to Flint Hills. And this will be our last project, but we have many to consider under Flint Hills application. So we'll start with project application 19 lots 2.
Which is 80,000, right?
Which is a fee waiver.
Ultimately, yeah, there was a lot of confusion about this project for me.
It's not 750.
Yeah, I would just really recommend to the applicant that you fill out the application and you're mindful and maybe not copying and pasting from previous applications that you have sent to us.
So this is an $80,000.
Yes, this is
Yeah,
the
you
fee
request-
waiver.
Fee waiver.
Yeah.
We don't control that.
Yeah, so I can provide some additional information. So on the KHRC LIHTC application, you can score additional points for local fee waivers. The only source of funding right now that the city would have for a quote fee waiver is through the AHAB. And so I met with KHRC to get clarity on if the AHAB, if the trust fund paid another city department for those fees, if that would qualify as a fee waiver and gain Tony those points. And they confirmed that that would not qualify. It would not.
Is Tony aware of that?
I believe I'm.
So would it be an option for us to recommend to the city that they waive the fee? I mean, we could make a recommendation to the city.
We could do it.
I mean,
But
you can make a
They
recommendation.
can decide whether they're gonna waive the fee or not, but we could recommend it.
You could, but the system development fee, so I believe it's up to $40,000 in fees is 5 points and up to $80,000 is 10 points. The system development charges cannot be waived per city policy.
So even if we
Okay.
funded this would not count as the 10 points that they would get on that
Correct.
tech project. So we would just be funding this to pay for the fee.
whatever, yeah, for the project, right?
That's good
Okay.
to know.
Okay,
Okay.
makes sense.
But it might get a belt too. Well, right, no, what we're doing is not illegitimate, is it?
No, I mean,
It doesn't get him the points, that's all.
Which was the main concern in his comment, was getting the points to be able to get, so the light tech has not been awarded. This will not get them curry any points to further advance the light tech project awarding. This would be paying an $80,000 fee.
To the city.
That on a project that's not tax credit funded yet.
And the LIHTC application that was submitted to us was, I believe, last year's. But it does not reflect a gap, a funding gap.
So they can pay it.
Understanding that numbers are gonna move and the budget's gonna be totally different by the time it gets done, but.
Well, we're gonna hear from Tony.
do you have questions? For me?
We talked about this waiver, $70,000.
So the question would be.
It looks like Troy, who works with Tony.
Can't- We're saying this doesn't help other than $80,000.
It will not score the points.
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
So we asking for a response to that?
And there's no funding gap reflected in their light.
Right. So we would just be giving them.
Additional subsidy for.
That's what we did last time too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Right.
What I want to make sure we're doing is that this isn't dirty money and the money we gave was clean money.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's just money.
Yeah. There's no like, no benefit other than giving them money.
We do look down at him and all that, but okay. All right.
Go ahead, Troy. I feel like Troy.
Yeah. Troy, based upon what we've said here, Troy, what is your response to some of the comments?
Sorry, I was sitting here waiting for you to unmute me. Apologize. It's my understanding that the last, and I can't speak 100% on this. I've asked Tony, he's not available, but it's my understanding that the last time we had this situation, we were awarded the money and then a letter was provided. I want to say it was by council to the city, and it allowed for the funding to count toward the 10 points because of the way that the city does it does not equal the way KHRC wants to see it. And Leah, it's my understanding from the conversation that you had a different conversation with, was it Terry maybe you were talking to?
Yeah, so the city did write a letter to KHRC stating that affordable housing trust funds are flexible funding that could be used for anything that supports a project, including fees. And Terry communicated that that was not sufficient to gain the points. Sorry about that, Timer.
Okay, then
Yeah, and
I misunderstood. I thought that was the case last time that they did accept it.
they did not, no.
Thank you.
So, and the only other thing I wanted to address was there was a question about a gap in funding, and the fee waiver application is not about a gap in funding. It's to get the 10 points, and with the additional 10 points, this project would likely be the highest scoring in the state, and pretty much guarantee the award of the project. And there's literally no other projects that can qualify for phase 2 points at this time.
But we're now under the understanding that that would not actually get you the 10 points.
Or you could use the 400.
Yes, that I'm addressing what was said earlier about the money, and obviously
Yeah,
we have
gotcha.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
We've got the answers we need. I think
Thanks,
very much, thank you very much for your comment and your inclusion.
I guess, but based on this, I have a
Yes,
fundamental issue with paying the city back with taxpayer dollars to not waive a fee. but that's a larger discussion for.
Discussion brought up 3 issues that you and I have in the city, and we agree on those. Look at you guys.
I know, it must be a full moon outside, y'all.
The time is 7:45 and the library will be closing in 15 minutes. No new library cards will be issued tonight. Any children or teens needing help calling for a ride home should go to the children's desk now. Public computer sessions will end in 5 minutes. Please bring
Loving
anything you
meetings
plan
at
to
the library, y'all.
at this time. Thank you.
Mark, you can stay for another 15 minutes with all of us, right? We're not keeping you out in the library. Okay, so next application will be from Flint Hills. It's the East Heights project.
I'm gonna speak to this. I think eventually, I'm not even sure what it looks like. I think eventually this will be a good project, and I want to show some support for it, however small. It's got all kinds of holes in it. You can blow it up easily. I want to show them in the school district that there's something there that is valuable to our goals.
I 1000% agree. I don't think $900,000 is gonna be it, but especially if Tony's thinking it may not be a light tech project that gets funded this year. But I love the opportunity to, we have been for so long trying to figure out how to utilize school property that's no longer in use or district property that's no longer in use. This is the only attempt that I've ever seen, or at least seen recently, that's asking to try to answer that question. Right, for housing, which is what we care about. So I also am in the spirit of allocating something just to show that we believe in this, and hopefully that will help the light tech application. But
This hits all of the things that we, and previously when this came to our attention, this was always something that, well, not always in big words, but this board has always supported this kind of framework and this kind of community engagement. I do recognize Tony's comments from last meeting where that our board's engagement doesn't really count for what the points he's looking for amount to. And I recognize that, but if we're following and we're understanding our goals and all the applicants, and we recognize this applicant is a recurring, you know, there's much interest in focusing on something that is a community development project, that is family housing. And I feel like shifting priorities with the developer and understanding this is a priority for us is crucial to let Tony know. These comments had me feeling as though he was misunderstanding this board's discussion and the goals for this board, and even some of the applications that we've received from this individual. Kind of also aren't really addressing some of the affordable housing board's goals. This one, it's a good support and I mean,
it comes down to feasibility, which is maybe super high at this moment in time, but I appreciate the good faith.
There's not enough there for me to support it. As a person who does these kind of projects, it's just not substance in the proposal for me. Like $400,000 a door for affordable housing for. I can't. I'm having trouble getting there. That's all.
yeah.
Yeah. It reflected my shoulder.
Chairman, when you get a minute, I have a question for scoring.
Oh, sure. And then I feel like we hopefully will get to that scoring project because we have some actions to review the matrix.
We out of here at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and we can't go over, so I think we're gonna have to defer at least the last agenda item. Troy had his hand up again if you want to take his comments or if the board had questions.
We will be still.
You can write an email, Candy.
I just wanted to respectfully ask the gentleman to speak a little bit louder because you're so far from the microphone, it's hard to hear you.
Thank you. All right, let's go on to the next application. And this will be the last application for the evening, and that will be the polar loss.
Sure. This is, well,
I want to fund some of this. I would argue to death that the project owners should be maintaining, maintenance costs on projects we've already funded and all that kind of stuff. And I want to show a little good faith on maintenance repairs.
I agree. The polar loss are a good place and location, and it offers real good family. That's just seems to be a good use of money and funds.
I think my only concern here would be was there a conversation around ensuring that the 30-year, that they were gonna go through the full 30-year affordability?
Yes, I.
Cause they
The
you could
impression
do
that they.
15 years, but I remember I overheard a conversation. I wasn't sure if it was about this or that they were not looking to do that.
I don't think they're eligible for what's called a qualified contract because KHRC has kind of prohibited those.
Right.
So they can't sell it, but what they, I believe what Tony said was they would re-syndicate in 3 years, which means they would be, I don't want to speak for them, but likely when that happens, they restructure the ownership entity and go back and request new tax credits to rehab and continue. So in 3 years.
That's in 3 years.
That may be happening.
In 3 years, 415, if he finishes, correct? Sorry. In 3 years, he's gonna re-syndicate and then go back to get 15 more. So,
30 more.
50.
To get 30 more.
Talking.
I'm just saying that, that's your background, is that people usually do.
That, I guess, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the goal was to get to the 30-year
Yeah, can we
affordability.
make a grant contingent upon that commitment to apply for recertification? I know we can't guarantee you'll get it.
$30,000.
I'm just concerned that we would be essentially providing dollars to something that in 3 years,
Goes out.
No,
affordability.
they won't get out.
they will not get
They're in
out.
it, they're in it for 30 years.
Okay,
There are some options available to request some. If they don't re-syndicate, if they keep it as is, they can request some loosening of some of the restrictions on the
Okay.
KHRC side.
okay, but they can't get out of it. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure of. I'm absolutely in favor of funding some of this as long as that at least 30-year commitment. And I do understand Tony's position of it's very hard to keep something affordable in perpetuity, even though there are projects that are doing that.
Side, but okay. No, I got you. And when we wrap this up, we are done with our review of all the applications. Thank you so much. We will go into maybe we've got 8 minutes left, and the next item we have is to review affordable housing trust fund application, key project elements, scoring sheets, and recommendations from staff. We will not have time for that. However, we will have time to answer and address a question that comes from a board member about the scoring and the procedures.
So if there's 2 votes and money votes for 400,000 to a project and I vote for 0. And so that's what happens. Do we pool the averages and say that's what we're.
that's, so that's the starting place for discussion. So whatever individual board member recommends, I put the average in the Excel spreadsheet. And that's sort of where the board has traditionally started with to begin negotiations,
And then we meet when for the final time.
November 13th.
Okay, 10 days after our submission.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah,
We're averaging.
correct, yeah, and that's, like I said, not the final amount, just a place to start discussions for the AHAB.
Big suggestion.
If I know, we have those numbers and get those numbers to align and we can.
So, done my, And I argue with you.
So, although there's no action required, I do, ask all of you, and I'm sure the staff here, what from the, city would ask that you review the application
Attention
procedure.
library patrons, the time is 7:55.
And I think we might
and the
need a motion
library
to
is
defer
closing
the
in
last
5
two
minutes.
items.
Please bring anything you plan to borrow to the nearest checkout station immediately. Thank you.
How does that work with public comment?
And then, additionally, all of the items here that are, links, please
We
just
can
go
look
ahead
at
and
it.
use those, review those with your
We ask
dispersal or your, time.
To the board.
And then also, the reports for Q3. So, I would ask for the board to, because we are out of time, to move, to recommend defer to our next meeting, these last two action items.
I motion to defer the last two agenda items to our next meeting.
Second.
Well,
So we will not do a roll call for that. Yes, we won't. At this value close, yeah. Great. Well, for a great meeting and for flowing in the.
Can I say, so general public comment, since we're not able to have that, I would like to offer to the board that anyone who wanted to make general public comment, email the board their general public comments or email Leah, so we can review those.
Yes, and thank you again for making that mention. We did talk about public comment, and the whole reason we have even changed our times is to make sure that we connect with the community and engage authentically. So if there are additional public comments that have not been able to be said today, please do send them along to the liaison, the housing liaison to Leah, and then we will, I'll review them. Thank you all for your time and.
Thank you.
Adjournment.